So, what if you could download decades of wisdom from 10 of the world's most successful people, like right now? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We've taken their best lessons to figure out what it really takes to build something amazing from scratch. Let's see what they've got for us.
You know, it all boils down to this one powerful idea. You can fail, but don't give up. This is the single thread that connects every piece of advice we're about to unpack. And all their wisdom really points to three crucial areas. First, you got to build your inner foundation. Second, you have to turn those ideas into actual reality. And finally, it's all about making something the world actually wants.
All right, first up, the inner game. Look, the core idea here is simple. Before you can even think about building an empire, you have to build yourself. This is all about getting your mindset right, finding your purpose, learning to handle risk, and building that resilience you're absolutely going to need.
A really powerful way to find that purpose comes from Simon Sinek's model, the Golden Circle. See, he points out that most of us know what we do, and some of us even know how we do it. But the truly great leaders, the ones who really inspire people, they always start with why. They begin with their core belief, their reason for being. And that is what people connect with, way more than just a product.
But just having a purpose isn't going to be enough. You've also got to deal with fear. And Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, has this incredible technique for it. Just define your worst-case scenario. Seriously, ask yourself, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Maybe you lose some money, a bit of time. The moment you actually confront that fear and realize, hey, I can survive that, it just loses its power over you. You're not just hoping for the best anymore, you're actually prepared for the worst. So the last piece of this mindset puzzle comes from, of all people, Mark Zuckerberg. When someone asked him what mistakes to avoid, his answer was kind of shocking. He said, don't even bother trying to avoid them, because you are going to make a ton of mistakes. The real goal isn't to be perfect. It's to learn from those mistakes as fast as you possibly can, and just keep going. Every single failure is just data that's helping you find the right way forward.
Okay, so you've worked on your mindset, you're ready. But what's next? Well, that brings us to our second big theme, turning your thoughts into reality. Because as these founders are about to show us, an idea by itself is pretty much worthless.
Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter, just nails it. He says, it's not who has the coolest idea, but who can make it happen first. Think about that. Everyone has ideas. The thing that separates the dreamers from the builders is execution. It's not about waiting for that one perfect idea. It's about making an idea happen.
And get this, it's not just him. Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, says the exact same thing. I mean, when two founders of this caliber share the same core philosophy, you know it's a fundamental truth you just can't ignore. The message is clear. Build your idea. Don't just sit around thinking about it.
So how do you actually get started? Well, Jack Dorsey's process for creating Twitter shows it doesn't have to be some big, complicated thing. It was just 3 simple, actionable steps. First, he sketched the idea on paper. Then he talked about it constantly to anyone who would listen. And then he started the real work of writing the code. No magic formula, right? Just simple action. A global platform that literally started as a doodle on a piece of paper. But where do these ideas even come from in the first place? Tony Fadell, the guy known as the father of the iPod, calls it the whisper. You know that little internal voice, that debate you have in your head that goes, what if we tried this? Or is this really right? He says if you ignore that whisper, that little spark of intuition, you could be missing your biggest opportunity. That whisper is what led him to create the iPod.
All right, so you've got the mindset, you're taking action. But there is one final, absolutely crucial piece to this puzzle. You can't just build for yourself. And that leads us to our third theme, shifting your focus to create real, actual value for other people.
PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel has some really counterintuitive advice here. He says don't go after a huge market where all the giants are already fighting. Instead, find the smallest possible niche you can and just completely own it. Become the #1 absolute best solution for a tiny group of people. First, you dominate that small pond, and then you can think about expanding into the ocean.
So, you've found your market. Now, how do you make your product better? Elon Musk's process is just relentless. He says you have to actively seek out criticism. Don't look for people to tell you you're great. Hunt for what's wrong. Talk to everybody, especially your critics, and use all that negative feedback to constantly make things better. The goal is super simple. Deliver the best possible value you can.
This brings us to a question that can pretty much define your entire business. Danae Rangelman, the founder of Indiegogo, says most people ask the wrong one. They start by asking, what will I sell? She says you have to flip that question completely and ask, what value will I deliver? If you focus on providing genuine value first, she argues, the rewards, the sales, they'll all follow.
And finally, marketing guru Seth Godin brings this whole thing full circle, right back to our very first point from Simon Sinek. He argues the story is the product. I mean, even if a competitor copies your product down to the very last screw, you can still win with a better story. Because, again, people don't just buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The value is so often in the story you tell.
So there you have it, 10 lessons, 10 billionaires, and they all point to the same core truths. Let's just do a quick recap of the entire playbook we've just put together.
It really breaks down into 3 clear stages. First, build your mindset. Get your head ready for risk and learn from every failure, with lessons from folks like Sinek, Ferris, and Zuckerberg. Second, it's all about execution. Turn your ideas into something real through pure action, just like Dorsey, Hoffman, and Fidel championed. And finally, create value. Build something that's truly meaningful for other people, guided by the wisdom of Thiel, Musk, Ringelmann, and Godin.
And that's pretty much it. But look, these aren't just cool theories. They're the actual strategies that built empires. So the real question isn't whether they work, it's how you're going to use them. Which one of these lessons are you going to put into action today?